Peak week is probably the most overcomplicated week in bodybuilding, and it's also the week where people manage to fuck up months and months of hard work. I've seen competitors absolutely nail 4 to 5 months of prep, everything's great, condition is on the money, and then boom, they get on stage and it's all gone to shit. Flat as a pancake, watery, and a total mess. Now, the crazy thing is, most of these mistakes come from actually trying to do too much. So in this video, I'm gonna go through all of the biggest peak week mistakes I've seen as a coach. The things that people will think improve their look, but actually end up making their physique way worse. If you're competing soon, then avoiding even one of these things could be the difference between placing or being bottom of the pile. Mistake number 1, and one of the biggest mistakes I see every single year, is cutting water. There's this belief that if you cut water for longer, you'll probably be more peeled on stage. Less water means less water, right? Unfortunately, that's not how it works. In simple terms, when you aggressively cut water too early, what actually happens is you will just go flat. And here's the key thing a lot of people forget. You cannot add carbs without water. Carbohydrates pull water into the muscle. That is literally how glycogen storage works. So if you cut water aggressively, you will simply look like a bag of shit, and it will be a total waste of time. Let me know in the comments if any of you have cut water too early and haven't looked like a bag of shit. Mistake number 2. And one of the bugbears I see all the time is people introducing foods that they haven't eaten all prep. If you haven't eaten something during peak week, this is not the time to test it. Why would you bother taking that risk? The reason for this is digestion. New foods can cause stress, stomach distension, inflammation, and sometimes water retention around the gut. And let's face it, nobody wants to go on stage looking like Mr. Blobby. I see people looking peeled on Instagram, social media 2 days earlier, and they walk around on stage with a bloated midsection. It makes no sense. Peak week should be about predictability. No fancy shit, just use the foods that you know your body handles and you already know digests well. Another huge mistake I see is feeding the carb loads. A lot of people think that peak week is specifically an excuse to eat as much as possible. That traditional, it's time to carb load, but the problem is people load in food without any testing beforehand. What I mean by this is someone has been, say, eating 600-700 grams of carbs on a high day during prep, and then suddenly during peak week, they're starting to carb up and they eat 1,000 grams of carbs. This will require very close monitoring. And if you haven't tried this before, you've got no expectation of what's gonna happen. Either they could spill over, they start holding water, digestion slows down, and they end up looking bloated. Then you need to try and rectify it. And if you're in a position where you're 1 day out, 2 day out, at this point, you're probably fucked. A good peak week isn't about cramming in as much as food as possible. It's about finding the right amount of food needed to create the most amount of fullness. Most of the time, the best carb loads are linear loads that have way more control. Mistake number 4, and now we are entering into the wonderful world of diuretics. Some competitors still seem to think that diuretics are basically some magic tool that will make them peeled. They will not work if you are fat. Most people's logic is, if a little bit works, then more must be better. But diuretics have a specific purpose, and when they're used incorrectly, they can completely ruin a look. Overusing them will lead to a flat look, electrolyte imbalances, possible cramping, and usually sometimes a physique that actually looks worse. I've seen people take aggressive diuretics and end up looking so much worse because of it. A perfect look comes from the balance between glycogen, water, and electrolytes. If that balance is off, funnily enough, you will look off. And that leads us on to our 5th and final mistake I see very often is people refusing to let the body rest. I hear people still doing cardio 1 day out, 2 days out. It's crazy. At the back end of prep, peak week, there should be no reason for you to be doing cardio. The goal is to drop off inflammation, stress, and cruise into that show. Doing too much, it will just make you look more depleted than you probably started the week off. The best thing you can do during peak week is less. Be a lazy fucker. Let the body absorb the food, let the inflammation drop off, let the physique come to life. One of the biggest lessons I have learned as a coach, coaching competitors over the years, is that peak week isn't about doing anything extreme. The best peak weeks are usually the boring ones. Small, simple tweaks. These will bring the physique to life and to its best. The work is already done at this point. It is purely about just not fucking it up. So if you found this video helpful, drop me a comment and let me know what some of the worst piece of peak week advice you've had or you've seen, and I might actually do another video reacting to some of the craziest peak week myths people have been told. If you're prepping for a show this season, make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to continue to put out more and more videos on context prep, coaching insights, and the things that actually make a difference on stage. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.